Okay. The first thing I would say is to take a look at our website. That is a great place to learn a little bit about what we do. There are headers at the top, and you can pull down and get information about what we do and who we are. And the first thing that we're going to look at is the good question. Let me just move my screen again, if I can. No, why would I be able to do that? All right, well, we're gonna start by going here. Hopefully I won't have skipped anything. I would just recommend that if you decide you're going to apply for an NDCA grant, which I do hope that you will, that you just double check our general guidelines. There's a lot of information in here about eligibility, what we require for applications, if there are any restrictions and legal requirements. Generally, I would say that we are open to hear from you about all projects. We love to talk to you. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas. And I guess the most important thing is we have money, and we'd like to see it get into your hands and into the community's hands for arts programming. So after the general guidelines, after you check that out, probably the first thing you're going to want to look at is this page called Grants at a Glance. This is kind of a compilation of some of our grant programs. So there is an accessibility grant, which Rhea just talked about. There's an arts and education collaboration, an artist in residence program, community arts access, which many of you could look at as a possibility to apply for grants. Our folk and traditional arts apprenticeship, this is Troy Geist's program, and that's very specific to individuals, and strongly recommend you talk to him directly. We just finished up our Indigenous Artist Growth and Development Fellowship. That's a partnership with Sacred Pipe. We gave a grant to Sacred Pipe, and 5 Indigenous fellows were selected, and they will be working as a cohort over the next 18 months. We have the Individual Artist Fellowship. We have the North Dakota Artist Training Cohort. That's part of Arts Across the Prairie. We have institutional support, professional development, and special projects. But on this page, there is a little bit of an overview, what it's for, who it's for, when the deadline is. We have a lot of deadlines coming up in April. That's one of the things to note. And then if you click on it, you will be able to go directly to the program. I think that once you hit on a program, and the one that I'm going to look at right now for just for purposes of discussion is Community Arts Access. So if you click on that, again, your deadlines will be listed. There are 2 rounds for this particular grant program, because we found that with some of the small to mid-size organizations, it was a little harder to plan ahead. So we wanted to make sure that there were funds available in the spring and in the fall. It talks about what the range of awards are. There's usually a minimum and a maximum. And then here's a little line that I just want you to make note of. In most cases, there is a match required. This varies program to program. So we'll come back and talk about that a little bit more, okay? This tells you when the panel dates are, and I'll talk more about what the panel does. And then here's the most important thing that I would say is for questions or assistance, the program officer is listed with their email as well as their phone number. So I'm going to stop sharing for a quick second. And I guess what I really want to say there is we want to talk to you in advance of your putting a grant application in. The reason why is we can help make your grant stronger, better, We can point out some places where we feel you would be a little bit more competitive within a group process that's getting ranked by a panel. We can tell you if information is missing. So it's important to do that in advance of the grant deadline. I'm going to try to say it about 10 more times during the conversation. Don't wait till the last minute and just turn in a grant and expect that you'll get feedback, because we won't be able to offer it to you at that point. From the time of the deadline, well, we're looking at grants to double check eligibility. We're also looking at getting our panel set up and getting the information you've submitted out to the panelists. So it's important that in order for us to give you feedback, you contact us. And I will show you in 1 second just how to find that. So how do you choose a program that's right for you? How do you decide what's best for you? If you would show your faces again for a minute, because I would like to have you wave at me again. Several of you, let's just double check this again. Show us your faces if you can, please. If you are in the institutional support program, wave. Okay, so there's only a few of you. Okay, so for the rest of the people on this call, don't look at institutional support. It may sound like the cherry on the sundae. It's a 3-year program, and we're not in an open phase at this moment. The next institutional support grant cycle will be next year at about this time, okay? So don't look at institutional support for this spring. And when you are ready to talk about institutional support, you would definitely want to contact me or my successor in the executive director position to talk about your eligibility, because there are different requirements for that than for the other programs. So I'm going to go back to looking at community arts access. All right. And let me share again. Okay, I'm going to close that. Okay, and I'm going to share this. Okay. All right, here we go. So we're back on this page here, right? And I just want to go over with you how kind of you would know what the right program is for you. So what are you thinking of doing? That's the first thing I would say. Is it a program that is involved in bringing arts to a community? Is it a program that's involved in bringing arts to the community? Are you doing that? Are you doing that in an ongoing program, or that lasts, for the summer, that lasts during the school year, that lasts during the whole year? What's kind of your time frame like? Think about the size of your community. Are you doing this in one of the larger cities, Fargo, Bismarck, Minot, Grand Forks, Dickinson, or are you doing it in a smaller community? Are there fewer people involved? So these are some questions that you're going to want to just ask yourself. And I'd recommend that probably one of the first people that you reach out to would be Lisa McCallum. Lisa, could you come on screen for a second so that they can just identify you again? And would you also put your name, put your email and phone number into the chat? Because Lisa manages community arts access, professional development, and special projects, as well as another program. But those 3 programs in particular are geared toward arts in the community, doing artistic activities in the community. okay? And they're smaller scale than you would be if you went for an institutional support grant, which again, you can't do that this year, so I'm not going to talk about it very much anymore. So you're going to want to reach out with some and have a conversation. You can also call me. Maybe somebody could put my email and phone number into the chat for me. Well, so I don't lose my whole brain trust going on here. But you can also call me and we're happy to talk about programs with you. Robin, who also really kind of has been with us the longest in terms of programs, has a very intimate knowledge of the grants that we offer. Robin, you could put your information in the chat. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. Let me say this again. We have money. We would love to see your programs happening in your community. And for a long time, there was, really quite a while where I would say a lot of people didn't necessarily even know that we had a state arts council and what we did. I think we've done a much better job of getting the word out there. So I think that more and more people are applying. So I think that that's great. So discuss your ideas. So if you were going to look at community arts access, I'm going to share again. You will see that there are 2 deadlines for community arts access. Round 1 is May 15th and round 2 is October 16th, okay? And that's a minimum of $1,250 and a maximum of $4,000. So there's Lisa and her number, and you're going to want to look at the guidelines for each of the grant programs you think you might be interested in. So my question is did the guidelines show up on your screen? Am I actually sharing them?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Okay. And if I could find well, I can't. So sorry, I don't know how to increase the size on this at this point. Oh, yes, I do. Huh, there you go. Okay. So arts activity. And in this case, you can be an arts organization and unincorporated groups. And the idea is to encourage groups to enhance the quality of programming and expand audiences and to promote knowledge and appreciation of the arts in North Dakota. Here is another timeline. Look, here's the draft review deadline column, right? That second column. You really want to pay attention to that. We really want to talk to you before the deadline. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this with a little bit of a caveat. For the most part, as an organization, you can only receive 1 grant during the fiscal year for your organization. It doesn't mean that there aren't a few other ways to access funds, but for your arts group and programs for arts in the community, it's important to understand that you can only get 1 grant per fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th. July 1 to June 30th. We're not on a calendar year. We're not on a federal government year. July 1 to June 30th. So even though you're applying in April or March, your program won't be able to start until July 1, and it absolutely must be finished being presented to the public by June 30th of the following year. Okay, that's our fiscal year. That's the dates we use. Ria, could you put the fiscal year dates into the chat for me? Okay, then we're going to go back to the program overview just to look at this one. Again, you have to decide what's right for you. And here we have If you're eligible, read that. Okay, you need to be tax exempt, or you need to be federally tax exempt, or you need to be tax exempt with a budget line that goes toward arts or community, or you need to be a public entity unit or tribal government. You can be an affiliate presenting or arts producing organization, okay? And again, the one trick here is that your arts budget needs to be isolated from, say, the university. You have to have your own separate budget. And then we will accept fiscally sponsored groups. So not everybody has a 501c3, but we strongly recommend that you definitely partner with somebody who does have a 501 in some way. Partnerships are great. They also help to build your community for the arts. You have to be in North Dakota. Your activities need to take place in North Dakota, and you need to serve North Dakota audiences and participants. Here are some of the things you can do: arts festival, exhibitions, performance series, touring performance of exhibits, single discipline or multidisciplinary arts projects. Here's a few things we don't fund. Your activities cannot take place during the school day. It's not for students, it's about a community. And again, so therefore learning cannot be the sole activity. There's a whole list of things that are ineligible, okay? I'm not going to review them all. There's a whole list. Just before you think about your project a little, look at that list and you say, oh, I want to do scholarships. Well, no, you don't, because we can't fund them. So you don't want to go there, okay? So again, here's the award, $1,250 up to $4,000, or if your program is more, 75%. Here's the section on matching funds. Now we've been very, very clear that there are matching funds, but again, every program has different matching requirements, okay? So in community arts access, if your budget, now I'm probably going to get this wrong, so somebody will correct me if I say this wrong. If your budget is $4,000, okay, we're going to ask that you match it. Oh, look, it's right there. By $1,000, 1/4, 25%, okay? And it has to be a source other than us and no other federal funding. So it can be in your in cash that you have on hand. It can be from a private funder. It can be from individuals. It can come from anyone. It can come from admissions that you're going to charge at the door. So your income just has to show a 25% match to the total, okay? Now, there are tiers, and Lisa, when we get to this, I'm just going to have you, actually, would you mind just covering that right now about tier 1 and tier 2? Lisa McCallum? Okay.
Hi, sorry, I was having a little trouble with my mouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so tier 1 is tier 1 are the smaller cities, smaller towns, smaller or up to 6,000 people. And then tier 2 are the larger cities,
right
over 6,000 people.
Okay, so it's the same deadline. Thank you, Lisa. It's the same deadline date, but you are going to be classified as a tier 1 or a tier 2, and it's based on your city population. Okay, and then we are going to have Lisa talk us through the online portal which is where you would go to apply for your grant. Okay, so Lisa, I'm gonna let you take it.
Yeah, hi everybody. Sorry, I can't share my screen because I'm not a host. So I can just maybe direct you to our website and
Can't we make you a host?
but if you
Brenna is making you a host.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think somebody else sharing the screen wouldn't be helpful.
All right. So if you just go to our website, this is one of the main pages that we use. It's just called Grants at a Glance. So you go to the Grants tab and then just click on Grants at a Glance.
And we are, Lisa, we already did this part, so,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so I'm just going to use the Community Arts Access for an example. I would just go down to where it says how to apply. So all of the accordion sections here are available for you to read through before you start, and then clicking how to apply. So these are the instructions here. And here's the link. So you just open the link. There are some tutorials. They're a couple years old, but they could be helpful if you've never used it before. And then when you open the link, it just looks like this. We've got some instructions on the right. If you're new, you'll have to create an account. If you're returning, you just log in with your email and your password. And then if you're not sure, so sometimes we run into cases where maybe 2 or 3 people at the organization, they're not in communication, and so they don't realize that somebody else already has an account in our system. So it's probably a good idea to try to ask around your organization and just see if somebody already has an account so that we can just stick with one per organization. And if not, you can call us and we can look it up and see who the person is who has the account. Any questions on that? Okay, so and so let's see, just one more thing. So I'll show you one more thing after you log in. And I have to stop sharing here because I'm logging in as myself and I'm going to proxy, which means I'm going to pretend that I'm somebody else because I can't apply for myself. It just doesn't it doesn't work that way. So now I will, let's see. All right, so now I will share this section for you. So now you've logged in and you can see what the potential applicant can see. You click apply right up here on the upper left, and you can see a list of all the grants that are currently open. So we have open dates and close dates, and all of these are currently open, and you can choose which one you'd like to apply for, and you just select it, and you start the process. There are a few of them that have something called an eligibility quiz. An eligibility quiz is simply about 5 or 6 questions that kind of get a background on whether you are eligible for this particular grant. So
Lisa,
it's asking what kind of.
Lisa, would you click on Community Arts Access and show the eligibility?
Sure.
You're right on it.
So it's just a few questions asking you if you are a current grantee. Now, nobody's a current grantee yet because the fiscal year hasn't started yet, but this is a question that will remain on the quiz for several months. So I have to form the question reminding people that this is when the fiscal year is, and right now you'd click no, but if you were starting this in a few months, you might forget and you might say yes, and then you're not eligible anymore. And then what kind of organization you are, if you're physically located in North Dakota, project start dates and end dates, and educational activities. and then you submit it and you can see whether you have passed the quiz or not. If you've passed the quiz, then you go immediately into the application. Does anyone have any questions about that?
It doesn't, it sounds a little tricky, but it's not. It's just basically asking you for very, very simple information. The other thing then that follows that is that when you fill out, I wonder if you could just get to, could you get to a community arts access application, Lisa? And even if it's
Well, I don't know if I want, okay. I'm
okay,
pretending
don't
that I'm
worry.
somebody
It's
else
fine.
right
It's
now.
fine. It's fine. We'll just go on.
Okay.
Just so that you're aware, in some cases, what you saw on when you were about to look at the page where you would select the program that you wanted to apply for, there was a little thing on the top that said enter code. Some of the grant programs have a code. You don't have to worry about that. If you have a code because you're part of an organization, i.e. institutional support, we give our institutional support applicants a code, and that's how they get into their application. Again, we do utilize, excuse me, I would again strongly recommend that you submit a draft or call us ahead of time with questions or descriptions of your grant. When you submit your grant, because we receive funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, about a good portion of our funding, there's some data that we collect that is related to the NEA's giving us money. We apologize. We cannot not ask you those questions. But basically, what those questions are is, what kind of an arts activity is it? Who are the audiences that you're serving? Maybe about the number of art. I can't even remember what they are. The number of artists that might be involved. Again, it looks like it's a long part of the application because it's a list. It's a drop down. But once you click on it, it disappears, puts your little answer in, and then you're fine to go sailing on through with it. So we use that information that helps us with our funding to show that our money is widespread across the state. Now, I'm going to say another thing. As an organization, how many of you unmask yourselves again, show me your faces. How many of you have heard of the DUNS number, the Dun and Bradstreet number? A lot of organizations used to have that, or still do, maybe. If you do still have it, it's no longer valid. And what replaced it is the UEI. So Ria, could you put that in the chat? The UEI, and it stands for Unique Entity Identifier. Now, when the federal government went to this new number and got rid of the DUNS number, there was confusion everywhere because they changed it in every federal agency across the board at the same time. Little did they know how much problems that was going to cause them and what the backup was going to be. So here's a perfect example. Arts for Vets just filed for their unique entity identifier and had the number within 48 hours. Whereas when they started this process way back, it probably took 8 to 10 months. So you do need a UEI. There is the registration link. So you're going to need that for your application. Even if you're a state 501 and not a federal 501, for us, we would like the UEI for all organizations. Technically, everybody should have one. Once you fill in your application and then you connect with the program officer for the draft review, okay, for the draft review, then you're going to get, the program officer will get back to you and give you some hints on your application. And once you're done and that process has gone back and forth, you're going to hit submit. Don't hit submit till you're actually ready to submit. Make sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, you've uploaded your budget, you've uploaded your organization's mission statement or board. There's a list of requirements that we put in there. Wherever you're at, add it, but do it before you hit submit. But when you hit submit, you will automatically get a notification from the system, and the system will say, you've submitted your grant. And at that point, it'll start to go forward. What will happen next is it will go before a panel. The panel is a group of people that are from across the state. We try to bring in as diverse a panel as we possibly can, male and female. I will tell you, we're short on males for panelists. If any of you are interested, let us know. We look at the cities, we go east, west, north, south. We try to make sure that the disciplines are represented so that we can get a good cross-section. Your applicant, along with your application, along with other applications in that category, is then given to the panel, and they are ranked on a percentage basis. If you were to get below a 60%, we would question whether you should be funded. It most likely meant that you probably didn't go to a program officer and get feedback before the deadline. That's often what we find happens, because then certain things weren't addressed. So that when the panel is talking about the criteria, which are listed in the guidelines, they rank against that, and then all of those are done on an aggregate. We come up with a score. For the smaller grants, special projects, professional development, I approve those. The other grants are sent to the full board, which means we have 3 meetings a year, and we always have a meeting right after our grant cycle closes so that they can approve all the grants officially. Then it goes into, how do you get your grant? And I'm going to turn it over to Robin so she can talk very briefly about what the next steps are once you get a letter from us saying you've been approved for a grant.
So the program officer will send a notification from our system. It'll come from the online grant system again. It'll have a grant award number. It will tell you the amount of the grant that has been awarded, and that can be the entirety of what you requested, or sometimes the panel might recommend a lesser amount to be funded. Often there are some panel comments to provide you with some feedback about, what the panel's thoughts were concerning your proposal. You are then asked to either accept or decline that, and that is done within the Foundant system as well. If you accept the grant award, then you are good to go when the project period begins. As Kim said, activities for the new fiscal year, FY25, can't be started until July 1st of 2024. But you will be ready to go then. Some of the grants, and it's in the guidelines, are reimbursement basis. So you are paid for your grant award upon completion of the project. There's a request for funds, part of the process. You just click a radio button requesting those funds from us, and that will go out to you. Other grants allow a portion of the award to be paid upfront. For instance, community arts access grants allow you to request 80% of your full award initially upon the start of your project period, and then the remaining 20% is provided to you once you finish the final report. You do need to make sure that you understand within each grant program, and it would also be in those guidelines, whether receipts are required or what kind of documentation you will be asked for with your final report. Most of the grants don't require receipts, but there are some that do. So ask questions if you're unsure, or otherwise go ahead and take a look at those guidelines. We do also provide you with a link to review the final report when you get that email notification from the system, your award letter. We do provide you with a link to that final report. So if you want to review it ahead of time, so you know what kinds of questions, what kinds of data you're going to be asked for when it's time to file the final report, you can kind of get a handle on that. As Kim said, you know, there are some NEA type questions, but we ask for information about the beneficiaries, you know, how many people benefited, how many people participated in the funded grant activity, how many were children, how many were adults, how many were older adults, you know, were there any special constituencies, you know, people with disabilities, veterans, people with limited English proficiency, you know, individuals below the poverty line. I mean, you know, again, some of this is your best guesstimation, but being aware of those requirements will help you when the event happens to, you know, do a quick count, try to get that information. Yeah, I guess the other piece of this that I would share is we don't have a checkbook where we can just write a check to you, easy peasy, you know, like, oh, here, put it in the mail, it's done in 2 minutes. The state as a whole has a vendor registry office, so any entity or individual that a state agency is going to make a payment to has to be set up and have an active vendor record in that system. And so that does require at times for newer parties, or if there are changes to existing information, that we get from you a state substitute W-9 form. They prefer their own substitute as opposed to the IRS form because it asks for a little more information, like a phone number and an email, ways that they can reach out if they have questions or run into snags. We do encourage our grantees to opt into direct deposit. It just it makes the payment process more streamlined, more efficient on our end, and hopefully on your end as well. So that's a request that unless you have some special circumstances or a unique reason why direct deposit won't work for you, we'd really ask you to provide that information. And so that there's a spot on the form to indicate that, and that requires the submission of a voided check with that. So Kim is saying in the comments, welcome to our bureaucracy. And unfortunately, it can feel like that. I mean, there are reasons for all of it, and you know, sometimes when we understand the reasons, it's a little more palatable, but it is what it is, and you know, we get through it and we go from there. So yeah, that's what I would say about accepting your award, getting notified of your award, and receiving your monies.
All right, thank you so much, Robin. I want to leave time for questions. The one thing I want to note is that Lisa added in the chat an email, administrator@grantinterface.com. Once you get a grant from us, it's very important that you make sure that email is accepted from that address. Otherwise, it'll end up in spam. So every time we send you a message from the system, you might not get it if you don't accept it. And at this point, I just want to say, I know that that's a lot of like information, right? And I'm not sure that it feels easy, but I can promise you that it's not that bad. And I guess I would say that Nadaga and Bridges Would you like to just confirm that it's not terrible online? Unmute yourself there. Go ahead, talk.
It is not terrible. You guys are actually wonderful to work with, and I thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. I think we all do. We are the friendliest, most available staff. We will answer any question that you have, and we are open for questions now. So I guess what I would say is, please unmask yourselves again so we can all see who's asking the questions. If you don't have, if you don't have a question, that's okay. We'll turn you loose on your day. If you're thinking about doing a program, you might want to just give the program officer a call. It'll most likely be Lisa or myself. But if you're thinking about doing an arts and education grant, you're going to want to talk to Matthew. If you're going to do an accessibility grant for your organization, you're going to want to talk to Ria. But we are here to help. So we want to help you. So please definitely do get in touch with us. Are there any immediate questions? I hope it wasn't too cut and dry and overwhelming. Yeah, welcome to our bureaucracy, but there you have it. We've tried to make it better every single year. So we feel like it's the language is easier, everything seems a little easier. So does anybody have any immediate questions that they want to ask? Anybody want to share? Yeah.
Super quick question. So as the BPS Foundation, we kind of often act as a fiscal agent for multiple different schools. And we've had occasions where we'll have this school over here that wants to submit this project, or this school over here wants to submit this. And but you can only submit once, the way I understand it. And so would we have to figure out who we're gonna do that with? Could they both submit and you guys figure out which one's the best? Like, how does that work? And what are the options for those things when they occur?
This has been an ongoing discussion with our staff when we're working with a larger school entity. And the way it is stated now is we don't anticipate that a school is going to fiscal sponsor, more than 3 applications, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. I've never seen a school, Minot State University, Bismarck State College, we've never seen them come in for more than that, because again, you have to manage it also. So I think the best answer is to have a conversation with you at another time, and you can talk to Lisa or myself about it.
That sounds wonderful.
We're really trying hard to make sure that the money is going into community arts programming, and we feel pretty strongly that some of the larger schools should be supporting these projects. So it's kind of a longer conversation.
Sure. No, that's great. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're being equitable on who we help and assist across our district.
Exactly.
And so we just want to make sure that we're being fair. And I think that's us wanting to work with you in that regard.
Yeah.
So
we're happy to have a further discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. What else can we answer? Eric, Annette, Amy, Sarah, Juanita, anybody have a question? Jenny, Brenda? All right. No questions. And I even just called on you. Put you on the spot. No questions. Call us. We're here. Okay? We really want to hear about your programs. We do not want to hear about them on the due date. We want you to have time to plan them and make them strong. We want to see arts in the community. You can help us get it there. Staff, any other last minute comments you want to add?
I was just going to mention the accessibility grant is actually one of those exceptions that if you are doing an arts program and you are getting a grant from us, you can also apply for an accessibility component to that grant.
That is a true
Keep that
thing.
in mind.
There are a few of those. I think it's just too complicated to get into all the ins and outs of it.
There's a lot.
Thank you, Sarah, for your comment. Thank you to everybody for being here. Hope it's helpful. Reach out to us. We are here. Again, our job is to see arts in the community across the state. We have the funds to do that. We can't fund everything and everyone. We don't have very big grants, but sometimes they really help you get other funds, and sometimes they just help you get started. And that's what we want to see. Good? Okay. Maybe staff stay on the phone for a quick second. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate your being here. Thanks.